Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. I'm Annette Richmond. This is Content Marketing School. And I was just saying before we went live, it's such a treat to have my friend Brenda here today. It's always fun when you can have a friend come and, hang out with you. So, Brenda, before we get started, why don't you introduce yourself for anyone who doesn't know you and tell us a little bit about what you do?
I would
Are we, are,
would love to. Brenda Meller, I'm a fan of yourself and give a little shout out to your host. I love that kind of stuff. I specialize in helping people get a bigger slice of the LinkedIn pie. Specifically, I specialize in working with the self employed, but I also work with executives and I do have a small offering for job seekers as well. And really delighted to be here with you today, Matt.
Well, again, it's always such a treat. And, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, for me too, just I always get to pick the brains of my guests, which is always, a nice thing for me. But I think of LinkedIn as being social media, but it's kind of different from other social media. Can you talk a little bit about for people that just don't know, should I do this kind of video? What kind of content? Talk about the difference between LinkedIn, creating content for LinkedIn and other platforms.
Yeah. First of all, I think you have to understand the audiences on each platform. They're a little bit different. And the
Mhm.
expectations when we open up that app or go to that website about the types of content that we're going to see there is a bit different. To me, LinkedIn is like you're opening up your business paper, whether it's the New York Times or, whatever business publication or magazine. So you're going in there with kind of your blinders on to business news and information about people that you know, people that you connect with, almost like a live networking event or a conference that you were to go to. But I
Mhm.
expect it to be in the work realm of things. As opposed to when I go on Facebook, and I don't go on Facebook all day, I might go on and at the end of the day, just to see what my closest friends and family members are talking about or what's happening in the world and what they're saying about what's going on right now on Facebook, I don't know about you, Annette, but my friend list is reserved to people that I know and like and trust, and that I trust to see photos of my family and that share my, values and things like that. Whereas on LinkedIn, I'm more open to meeting and connecting with anyone. So I think when you're starting to develop content for each of the different platforms, you have to think about the mindset of people on that platform and also, and perhaps even more importantly, be on the platforms where your ideal target audience can be found.
Yeah. Well, you're talking to someone who has, I think 37 friends on on Facebook. So I hear you on that. List is really, really small as on Facebook. Yeah, the audiences are different. So one of the things that I wanted to ask you about too is when it when it comes to strategy. Now, what is the relationship between strategy and content creation? And you started to tell me a little bit of a story before we started, so that might figure into this answer. But I think
Mm.
um, for me, the mistake that I often make is when I'm creating content is I'm not having a strategy behind it. And I think that's a big misstep, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on strategy and related to content.
Yeah, well, at a high level, I like to think about strategy is what's the route you're going to take to achieve your desired goal. So if we were going on a road trip together, Annette, we want to know where we're going. The goal is for you and I to get to Hawaii. I think we both set that as a goal. We want to be in Hawaii and be presenting on the stage at a conference together and then have a little mini vacation while we're there. But then the strategy are all the things that we are going to do to help us to get there. So we're going to be telling people everywhere we go, do you know of any upcoming conferences in Hawaii? We're going to be applying to speaker applications for conferences and events that are being hosted in Hawaii. And then once we both get locked in as a speaker, we need to plan how we're going to travel there. We need to book our airfare. We're going to, of course, be
Mhm.
picked up by a limousine or something fancy at the airport, right? And have us get to the shuttle over there. So it's the strategy as a high level. how are you going to, like, what's the path to helping you to achieve your goals? So the story I started to tell you in the pre-show, I'll share with your audience. If anyone were to pop on over to my LinkedIn profile today and you see the post that I did today, it was about snow. And I asked the question, how much snow did you get today here in Metro Detroit? I just realized I have a typo. I'm going to change the hair to here right now. A little bit of my German calling in the background here. But here in Metro Detroit, most of the schools are closed. We got 5 to 6 inches of snow on the ground. It actually started yesterday and they closed the schools pretty much in the afternoon. Everywhere throughout Metro Detroit, I think they're pretty much closed. 5 to 6 inches on the ground. It's cold, it's freezing, it's not gonna melt anytime soon. So my poll was, how much snow did you get today? Option 1 is 5 to 6 inches or more. Option 2 is some, less than 5 inches. Option 3 is snow. What snow? And then option 4 was other, comment below. Saying, "Oh, wait a minute, she's a LinkedIn coach. Why the heck is she talking about snowfall? She's not a meteorologist, right? And this is in Facebook.
Mhm.
Why are we talking about snow?" Because you know why? When I used to work in corporate, on days like today, when I would walk into work and we were all coming in a little late because it was the roads were crazy and, work doesn't close, just schools are closing, right? It was the first thing we
Yep.
were talking about. My friends from the Novi and the west side of town, "Oh, we got 8 inches." And the people north of me, "We got 12." And some in the southern areas, they may say, "I think we only got 3 to 4, but the driveways were really messy." So we were all talking about that.
Mhm.
So I like to think about when it relates to LinkedIn, when you're posting on LinkedIn, it's not just to sell to your connections, it's to build relationships
Mhm.
with your professional connections. And this post is doing really well. I'm not surprised. 92 votes so far, 26 comments. I haven't even started to reply back, but I know that a portion of those people reading that post, reading that poll are going to click to come back to my profile.
Mhm.
And now I've helped to bring you in to read more about me. So that's how I think strategy relates to content and also the little backstory about my poll for today.
Yeah, no, it really is true, and one of the things that we don't hear as much, but for quite a while it was, well, LinkedIn isn't Facebook. LinkedIn isn't Facebook. Oh, you shouldn't be doing videos.
Mhm.
Oh, you shouldn't be talking about your dogs or whatever. And I think that that has shifted. But how much has it shifted? I mean, I still feel pretty comfortable posting a video that I post on TikTok on LinkedIn.
Mhm. Now, you and I are probably a unique in that this is what we do for a living and we get comfortable with the
Mhm.
uncomfortable. We're also training and coaching people on different techniques. And I think there may be some folks that are more in the more conservative
Mhm.
on what we post on LinkedIn and then be not posting. They are readers. I like to call them stalkers or lurkers because that sounds negative, but they're readers. Just like pulling up the Wall Street
Mhm.
Journal or the New York Times, they're reading, they're consuming the media that they see on their LinkedIn homepage feed, but they're not liking, they're not reacting, they're not commenting on it. Um, you know, we have certainly realized that the types of content that we post help to attract the right deal target audience to us and it can also repel the wrong people away. So my guess, Annette, is those fun
Mhm.
videos that you and I both do with our dogs. I mean, there's certain people that that's not going to attract. They're going to go, "They're being silly. This isn't for me." That's okay with me,
Right.
right? I mean, I would guess it's probably the same with you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I do see it that way, but I also have to say that um and I think this might be with other content as well because I we all know some people that they tell a lot of stories around their content is based on a story and it's tied into a message that is relevant to the target audience. So maybe it would be me talking about my dogs and doing talking about blah 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 and getting them to sit still while I'm doing a video of them, and then I would somehow tie that into teaching other people how to do video. So I'm not really quick on my feet with this, so I did not plan what I was going to say for that. But but I find that I think when people, whatever wherever they start, and I agree with you, I think of people that aren't creating content as learners too. They're learning, they're on there learning from other people, which we do too. I mean, I follow you, I follow several people that I learned from. But I guess my question is, when you're talking about the comfort zone. What is a strategy maybe that people could use to get a little bit more comfortable with even stepping out in the first place and they're doing their first post. There's so people are afraid of like, oh, people are going to criticize me or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah. So first I want to address, I just stepped away for a second. I think I'm getting a little Wi-Fi issue and I got a your internet connection is unstable. So I'm just pulling up my hotspot right now and I'm going to switch over from my home Wi-Fi to my hotspot here in just a second. If you're anybody's noticing I'm freezing up or delays, that's what's happening there. But I'll answer the question first and then so I think if you're not comfortable, what I do is start by spending 10 to 15 minutes a day in the LinkedIn homepage feed and start to get comfortable with what are
Mhm.
other people posting. The first few days, it
Mhm.
might only just be scrolling through and seeing what people are posting. And then over time, maybe week 2, you start engaging with it. Give it a like, give it a reaction, that type of thing in there. And then maybe start
Mhm.
working up to adding a comment. I like to do longer comments, 8 or more words, but start thinking about if that person were to be standing in front of you and they said what it is that was in the post, like, what would you say back to them? So start warming
Yeah.
yourself up to being in the homepage feed because I think going from not posting at all to starting to post without
Yep.
doing that, it's almost like walking into a networking event in a room that you don't know anyone and going up to the stage and grabbing the microphone and announcing your presence. Like, who is this person? Whereas if
Yeah.
you've been mingling around the room and you've met the meeting host and maybe you've asked permission to grab the microphone and you're hearing what other people are talking about, now when you go up in stage and you make that announcement, everyone's like, "Oh, Brenda, I talked to her at the door. She's great. She's got a cool dog named Pepper. She's friends with Annette." Like they know things about you because you've been
Mhm.
interacting on their posts.
And I just want to give a shout out. I can see people in the audience. I'm not seeing comments, but I can see that people are watching us here. So if you have a question, put it in the comments. Even if you're on Instagram, I can see you there as well. I see somebody's on Instagram watching us. So hello over there at Instagram. But please do put a question in if you have one, and I'm sure Brenda would be kind enough to give us a little answer. Okay, so she has stepped away because she is switching up her Wi-Fi. And one of the things that I have to say that I really admire about Brenda is her ability to always just go with the flow. So she just messaged me. She's reconnecting right now. So we'll be waiting for that. But one of the things that I have learned from her is to go with the flow because that's one of the things that she has taught me. So one of the things that I will say too, and I love that she was talking about people being, learners and listeners, but not necessarily using that horrible thing, lurkers, which I think is a terrible thing. So, Brenda, we see you. You are back. Your little fuzzy face there, but
I hope I'm back. It sounds like the audio is a lot more clear right now and we're not talking on top of each other. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you just fine. You look a
All
little
right, rock
fuzzy
and
to
roll.
me, but
Mhm.
you look perfectly fine on the screen, I think. So, okay. I can't tell. You look clear on Instagram and a little fuzzy on LinkedIn. But hey, we will continue
Mm.
on. So I was trying to ramble and talk about, how you have taught me to go with the flow. That's one thing that I've learned from you. And you have always talked about, technology and learning opportunities and not mistakes. So I try to think of things like that. So we talked about some of the things that
Mhm.
people are you gave some tips, but what would you say? And I think you also gave us a example of what not to do. Don't feel like you need to jump right in because I know people often think about it like at the gym. I'm going to start going to the gym in January. I'm going to lose 10 pounds and I'm going to go every day to the gym. So if somebody decides that, yes, I'm going to stick my toes in, I've been commenting and now I'm going to start doing some posting, what do you recommend that they start with? Like, post every single day a video? I'm thinking not that.
Well, I think you should if you wanna do video, you should talk to Annette over here because 'cause she's got a really great video content creation guide. You should talk to her about that. But I wouldn't start with video. I would probably start instead by just aiming to post once a week. If you're not posting at all, Imma
Mhm.
give you a little I don't wanna call it a hack, but something that's super easy to do, and that is to find
Okay.
someone else's content and do a repost. You could just click on repost and it does a push out automatically, or even
Mhm.
better, click on repost with your thoughts. Now, if you're an employee of a company, go to your company page on LinkedIn, find a recent post that your company has done, click on repost with your thoughts, add some commentary to it, and then publish it, or just do a straight repost. Easy to do. And you could certainly do this with an individual's post as well. You don't have to do this with a company page post. I'm kind of going
Mhm.
with like beginner, just getting started with posting. It's a really
Yep.
easy way just to dip your toe in the water without having to think about what to post. Because I don't know about you, Annette,
Mhm.
but from my clients, I hear the biggest challenge is like coming up with what to post. And they will often say, I don't want to look stupid, or like, I don't know if this is the right thing to say or not. How do I say this? A lot of those common questions. And I'm like, literally on LinkedIn, find something, click on repost. Don't worry about it. That counts as your post for the week. What do you
Yeah.
think?
No, I like that. I like that idea too. And one of the things also that I think about is the idea of people worrying about people judging them. And I would say one thing, I think you'll agree with me, for the
Mhm.
most part, LinkedIn is a friendly place. Social media is a friendly place. People don't, the 99.9% of people are not on there going, oh, okay. Oh, look at that thing. Well, look what Annette said. Oh, I don't like what Brenda said. Let me just troll or, but also the idea, and I think I learned this from you, the idea that you only need to know this much more. So
Mhm.
if I'm talking to somebody here, I only need to be here. I don't need to be here. I don't need to be a
Yeah.
neurosurgeon to help somebody put on a band-aid.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we all probably struggled with this too when we first started to come into our area of expertise. You know, for me, I came up
Mhm.
through a corporate marketing field. So I remember when I was first on LinkedIn, I'm like, I can't talk about marketing. There's people with so many more years of marketing experience than I have coming on the platform. But what I realized is that when it relates to what you post on LinkedIn, you have to be thinking about who is your ideal target audience, and think about like you're really just speaking to one person, and that's your ideal target
Mhm.
audience. You're not speaking to your colleagues who have 10 or 15 more years of experience than you do in that category. You're just speaking to that person who you're looking to try to reach, whether it's to inform them, to educate them, sometimes to entertain, or using infotainment as an option inside there. But, for me, if I'm trying to reach somebody who is self-employed, who really doesn't understand how to use LinkedIn effectively, all I need to do is share a LinkedIn tip that I have been using that's been helpful for me and some of my other clients. I'm not going to be worrying about all the other LinkedIn trainers and coaches know this. They're going to go, "Of course you can do that." I'm not
Yeah.
trying to reach them. They're not for me, right? I'm trying to reach that person who looks at that and goes, "Wow, I didn't know you could do that." Right? So I think you have to think about your audience and don't worry so much about, does someone else know this who's smarter than me? Don't worry about that.
Yeah. And one thing too that I wanted to ask you, because I know that you do talk to different audiences. Now, obviously, if you're a business owner, as a consultant, a coach or something, you are going to be, it's really essential to be creating content and sharing it. But if you are looking for a job, if you're a job seeker or you're in the career field, it's also a good idea to be creating content, but how might that
Mhm.
content be different between someone like me and someone who is, either out of a job or just looking for their next opportunity in more of a corporate environment?
Yeah, great question. Again, I go back to who's your ideal target audience. For people like
Okay.
you and I, we're self employed. Our target audience are prospective clients that we're
Hmm.
trying to build visibility, build relationships with. Their ideal target audience is a hiring manager or a recruiter, right? So their content's going to be more to demonstrate what they'd be like as an employee coming into the organization. You could be posting
Mhm.
about areas of expertise related to your role, questions you've been asked over the year that are relevant to the type of position, the level of position that you've been in, whether it's a leadership role or an individual contributor. And also
Mhm.
just, staying active, and being visible on LinkedIn. I think that's really key for a job seeker because a lot of people feel like they want to fade into the background. They don't really want to make visibility. They want to they don't want to go, "Hey, I'm looking for a new job. I'm unemployed." But I think there's a way that you can be posting and be on the platform demonstrating your expertise and also creating that great visibility for yourself with those recruiters and hiring managers.
No, 100%, and I think that goes back to the thing. I think people, more so in a corporate, if they have a corporate position, they feel like, okay, if I just sit here and I work and I keep my head down and I work and I work,
Mhm.
people are going to know, and nobody knows. And so, I think also people may think if they're looking for a job on LinkedIn that well, they come and they see my title or something like that. But it that really doesn't, you know, that's not really how it works.
Mhm.
So when it comes to you know talking about I'm looking for a job or I'm looking for clients, one of the things that you would mention about, oh, I'm looking for a job, or for somebody like me, oh, I'm looking for clients, pitching sort of me, how do you mix that into the content you're creating? Because nobody's going to be following
Mhm.
or reading somebody's content if all they're ever talking about is me, because they want to know what's in it for them.
Mhm. Yeah, I think most of the time should be I'm gonna to those people that are self-employed or using LinkedIn for business development or
Okay.
prospecting, I like to follow the 80-20 rule, but we're gonna say 20% of the time you should be selling yourself. The other 80% of the time, you shouldn't be selling in your posts. You should be informing, educating, inspiring, sometimes entertaining in your posts. So let's just assume you're posting once a day. So 5 days of the week, you're posting. 4 of those days, they're gonna be one of those things: informing, educating, inspiring, entertaining. I'm just making that up. The 5th day is going to be selling or promoting a specific service event. It's gonna help you to connect with your ideal clients and remind them if they wanted this with you, this is one of the services or products that you sell in there. I'm still noticing some hiccups, Annette. I apologize. I'm back to my home Wi-Fi because I'm seeing a fuzzy screen as well, and I want to ruin your whole episode. So I'm going to try to switch back
No,
over, but it
I
might kick me off.
okay. Okay. And the thing is, though, it's funny because the sound is perfect, but I think there's a lag for you hearing me, and that's what it feels like. Okay. So one of the things that I'm going to ask Brenda about, and I think this may speak to people who are consultants, entrepreneurs like the two of us are, and it's the idea of, hey, and there you are, all clear faced again. So what I was just going to start
Is
talking
that
about
better?
is and I think Yep.
Mhm.
And I think that people are often coached, not by you, not by me, to get on and be vulnerable. Okay. Just share, I know people, they're, in the hospital bed, posting on LinkedIn. And I am a big like, you do
Mhm.
you, I'll do me. But I think people sometimes are afraid to post because they hear, oh, you must be vulnerable. You must be sharing. If you're going through a divorce, you should be talking about it. And because people, it's engagement, or you should be, just selfies of you all the time because they do get engagement. But people, I think, struggle because they hear people say this, people say that, and they're not comfortable with what people are telling them to do, but they feel like they should do it. And I think that can backfire.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you have to be comfortable. You need to be vulnerable. I actually don't recommend everyone that they go out there and be vulnerable. Anything that you post on LinkedIn, you should be comfortable with that going on the billboard on the side of the highway in your metro area hometown. Like if you're comfortable with it going out there, then go for it. But I think for the people that do make
Mhm,
themselves more vulnerable, I think they may notice two things. One is they might get an improvement in engagement, a lot more people reacting, commenting, reaching out, direct messaging them, those types of things. The other thing is, I would love to say that everyone in the world is kind and professional, but
mhm,
I think some not be kind with those comments and not be kind in their reaction, those things. So if you're be vulnerable, I think you have to be prepared that there could be a downside to that. And there might be people who don't interact with you or who unfollow because of some of the things like the hospital post or things that you're posting on there. I think that being vulnerable when you have a great community, and also if whatever it is that you're going through that you're sharing is impacting your life, your work, your career, your overall well-being, I think sometimes letting people know what's going on can help you to create greater connections with the people that are already in your world. Now, the people that don't know you, don't
mhm.
care, they're not going to, I don't think it's going to make them care more if they didn't have that great connection with you beforehand. But I think coming back to, do you think you want to be comfortable with any approaches that you're taking? If you're willing to stick your neck out and try some different things, I think you can have definitely some positive reactions, engagement with that. But I think you got to be prepared for some of the negative backlash that might occur too.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. I mean, I love, you're on with your dog, Pepper. I feel
Mhm.
like I know Pepper. I feel like she's my friend. I wish I could come to Detroit so I could meet Pepper. It'd be nice to see you too, but I really like to, get in with Pepper. And I like to do that too. I like to post stuff with our dogs. And I feel
Mhm.
like, the dogs which are like, my kids, or me and my husband at a game or a restaurant or a concert or something like that, is fine. Because I think people are a little curious about other people, particularly if you're a independent, a solopreneur, entrepreneur, consultant like we are.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it allows people, it humanizes us as people. It really is really what it does. So you and I are not just the roles that we serve and the expertise that we share, but we are also real people. I like pie. I have a dog named Pepper. You have a dog named Katie and Emma. We're both Swifties, Taylor Swift fans, right? We'll sometimes talk about Taylor Swift lyrics and Taylor Swift in our posts and videos and things like
Yep,
that.
yep.
And not everybody out there is a Swiftie. I don't understand it why you wouldn't be, but to each his or her own, right? With
Well,
that, but I think when we are showing some of these things behind the scenes, it humanizes you. It can help you to create that connection with people, or they feel like they know you because they're, oh, like
mhm.
I'm a rescue dog mom too, and then you start comparing notes on that, which helps to further a relationship, which can lead to business, and it can lead to them keeping you in mind and referring business to you in the future too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned Taylor Swift. There are some people who don't like dogs. I don't understand that, but it's just, I mean, I wear black all the time because we got black dogs. It's very, I like black,
Yeah.
but it's
Some
also
people
a,
out there too, I've heard, and I used to be one of
oh, I like them. We're equal opportunity. I've had cats. We've had cats and dogs and everything in this house. Four legs. We love them all. So we're getting towards the end of our time, and I
Mhm.
want to be mindful of your time. But I always like to. Oh, let me actually. I we've been going in and out and this and that going on. So I have not had a chance because I didn't think of it to share my screen. And for anyone who doesn't know your LinkedIn profile, I just want to pull that up as I'm asking you for your final thoughts for sort of today's conversation. I mean, I've been picking your brain, and that's always a treat for me. And I'm gonna just pull up your profile here. Let's just be sharing that. And so we're kind of going down to the bottom. So one thing I want to mention, please do follow Brenda and grab this LinkedIn checklist. Brenda has a bunch of checklists for all different things. I'm, doing her checklist for course creators right now because that's what I'm doing. And it's really something that you can learn to. And I think you can grab like all of them on your, from your profile. You have a whole bunch of, oh, and here we are. You have a whole bunch of stuff in your featured section. So um, I
Mhm.
know that you're kind of up high on the for so many connections that you already have. How would you recommend if someone, wants to connect with you?
Yeah.
What's the best strategy?
So if you visit my profile, we're not connected yet, you're gonna see the follow button. If you want, you can
Mhm,
just click on follow, you can be following me. If you'd like to connect with me, you have to click on the more button, and there'll be an option
mhm.
underneath that that will either say connect or personalize invite. If you have the opportunity to add a note to your personal invitation, I would say mention that you saw me on Annette Richmond's live show, and I'd be happy to accept you into my network. I am getting close to that limit, which is 30,000 connections, so I'm being a bit more selective on that, but always happy to connect to people who've been on a show that have listened to me and have found great value. Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate that. So I just want to, as I'm bringing us back here together, I do want to mention that you also have a show that I've been on that you do live, and you have a podcast. If you just want to share those, so people can learn from you.
Yeah, and the great thing is I've been doing the live streams, since 2019. I don't know if you remember back in the day, Annette, when you had to apply for LinkedIn Live and they would
Yep,
approve
yep. I
you.
started then too. Yep.
Yeah. So I was one of, and it sounds like you were too. I was one of those people that I applied like 3 times and then they finally gave me access, and this was back in, I think it was like October, November of 2019, and one of
Hmm.
the rules at the time was you had to go live. I don't know if it was like once a month or once a week. I think it was once a month. So I started then, and then 2020 hit, the pandemic, and we were all working from home, so I went weekly, for a majority of that year, and then I was keeping on with that cadence. I've got so much great content from those shows, and I didn't launch my podcast until 2023. And
Hmm.
I'm now starting to go back through the vault of all those shows and repurpose some of those into my podcast, which is called Enthusiastically Self Employed, where I share marketing, LinkedIn, and business tips, both in solo style shows as well as in interviews, pulling from my LinkedIn Live library. So at the beginning of 2025, I decided I was going to take a pause on live streaming, both because that
Okay.
vault, I've got so many to go through. And the other thing is, the tech hiccups that are happening. StreamYard, I started having some issues with coming at the end of 2024. It made me move over to Restream, and I'm not sure what's happening. I'm gonna say it's the snowstorm here in Michigan. There's probably snow that's weighing down on our internet line someplace that might be causing the hiccups that are going on. But
Hmm.
I've decided to, when I start to rebook new guests for my show, I'll be doing just a one-on-one, jump into a Zoom call, chat with each other, and then I'll be launching it later, probably on my podcast. But if you go to mellermarketing.com/podcast, you can find the link for that show and listen to those episodes.
It's a good show. I listen to it. It's always I like to listen to podcasts when I'm in the shower. It gives me something to do while I'm in there to, be entertained. So I just want to ask you if you have just a couple more minutes. I know we're running over. If you have just some kind of a final thought
Mhm.
for people who are listening and they're like, okay, I don't know, here I am, strategies for LinkedIn creation. What do I do?
So my suggestion is start by ramping up your presence in the homepage feed by just paying attention to what other people are posting. As I mentioned earlier, gradually over time, start to work up to liking, reacting their posts, adding thoughtful comments on there. I would add to that, make sure that you're inviting people to connect that you see value from. Hopefully, you're seeing value from myself and from Annette. Hopefully, you're following both of us. For those individuals that you want to make sure that you're seeing their posts when they're being published, click on their bell icon on their profile after you've followed or connected with them. That way, LinkedIn will notify you when they do new posts on the platform. And that 80/20 rule that I mentioned earlier, 80% of the time, I am trying to post value, value, value for you, whether it's LinkedIn tips, marketing tips, new techniques, different strategies for posting different tools and things that you can use to help you to elevate your LinkedIn presence, get a bigger slice of that pie. That's my goal for all of you. And then just start posting. Post once a week. You can certainly do that repost strategy. It's really easy to do. And then gradually work up to starting to create some new original content. And maybe you'll get some ideas from Annette and me on that.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for staying a little bit later here. And thanks to everyone who has joined us. I can see people out there. We haven't had comments and questions, but I can see people. People don't realize that, but you can see them out there in the audience. So, and a special shout out to our people there on Instagram. So nice to see you all on Instagram. Thank you so much, Brenda. It's been such a treat spending this time with you. And for everyone else, have a great rest of your day and see you next time.
Thank you, Annette. Take